Hello and welcome. Today's guest is Mr. Paul Weber. Paul began his career as an actor. He's a graduate of ASU on an acting scholarship, and he actually fell in love with acting and toured over the years with several theater companies, including the California Shakespeare Festival and the Arizona Theater Company. Now, Paul is a casting director by day, but he's also, I guess, an actor in his roots, in his blood, and in his DNA, and of course, an acting coach as well. And so he's a welcome addition to the new CWBLive coaching program that we wanted all those actors out there to get to know. Now, when he moved to LA, things got very interesting for Paul. He met an acclaimed casting director and an author, an acting coach by the name of Mr. Michael Shurtleff, who mentored Paul and gave him new insights and helped him understand a new approach to the audition process. And this was something epiphanous for Paul, because through that experience, he also became a much more experienced and dedicated acting coach himself. And he studied the process for more than 20 years, worked with actors in both group workshops and private settings as well. So Paul is one of those coaches where you're going to get an opportunity, whether you're in a small group or you want one-on-one. He really knows how to tailor his content, really bring something to the table that's going to help you, whatever you like. Now, 20 years later, he's one of the most in-demand casting directors in the business, still active in film and television projects, but he has never lost that love for coaching, and he's eager to work with actors all over the world. Now, 20 years later, he's one of the most in-demand casting directors around the world. He's worked with some major studios and networks on a whole bunch of different TV projects and film features. Most recently with MGM, he was an in-house casting director and executive. But he never lost his love for coaching, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Actors everywhere. If you'd like to learn more about Paul, you can see some information down below in his profile. And of course, you can book a session. But before we get to that, I'd like you to get to know Mr. Paul Weber. How are you today, Paul?
Hey, Christopher, thanks so much. Thanks for the really sweet introduction too.
Well, you've got such an interesting career, and for a lot of people, I think, who would probably look at your success as a casting director, what's not evident right up front is how many years you were in the trenches as an actor, and not just an actor. You were doing Shakespeare, you're doing stage work, real craft work behind what most film and television actors today really would love to have as an experience. Do you miss those days? Is that something that you ever even thought about going back to, Paul?
Yes and no. Whenever I watch it and see other actors do it, it certainly tugs at my heart a little bit and said, oh, remember when I did that play or played that role? And you know, I know so much more now, and I bet I could really give it something extra special. And then I remember that as much as I loved it, I really found my passion in casting and coaching and directing. I think that's what I was destined to do. I just didn't know it at the time.
When did it hit you, especially having been a touring actor? At a certain point, you must have realized, you know, you were definitely drawn to casting, but also with coaching. When is that moment when Paul Weber realizes, I really love coaching and I want to do this more?
I think from the very beginning of my casting career, I felt like I had a real close affinity and connection with actors because I was one myself. In fact, there was a period where there was a bit of a crossover, and I was running off to do maybe something on a soap, and then I would go back to the office the next day and I'd have someone pinch hit for me in the office. And I usually work with casting directors who were really lovely about letting me do that for a while until I began to get more and more work as a casting director. And then when I went to MGM, it was really, I was all in on it. But I think it's just my affinity for actors that has made me especially empathetic toward their journey, and one that I wish I had had someone like me, perhaps, that would have been a guide for them as well too in the coaching process.
What's the draw for you? Is it in the room with those actors working on a scene or helping them break something down? Or does it come for you later when you see it on screen, or they're actually out there doing it, and all that hard work and that time that they have spent with you developing it really materializes? Is it something in between?
I think it's something in between, because when I get the material from an actor and they're preparing for an audition, I will have some ideas about how I think they could approach it, but I'll wait to see what they bring to me first. And that will be sort of the platform from which we launch from. And then I will take some of their thoughts, some of their ideas, I'll challenge them with some of my own to sort of peel back the onion and get to a deeper level of the work for the audition itself. And then I sort of set them loose once I feel like they've really gained the confidence and the understanding of the role, and that sort of discovery light goes off in their heads and their eyes, and it's, oh, right, thanks, I didn't think of that. And then over time, I hope I get them over time, and as I continue to work with them, to already start thinking of those things so that we take it from a higher level to the next level. Does that make sense? So the more I work with an actor,
yeah,
they begin to challenge themselves in a way they never did before. And then they come to the session already much more prepared than they did at the beginning. And hopefully, at a certain point, they won't need me anymore. It's like a shrink, I guess. Once you get to that level, then you may not need to work with a coach every single time because you have a process of working that we've developed together.
Paul, you've obviously had some incredible teachers and mentors yourself over the years. I'd be really curious which ones impacted your career the most and what you took from those experiences with them.
Well, I think I was really fortunate to have several really inspirational teachers and mentors, especially in my early career. But I think two that especially come to mind that are especially inspirational to me. One is Clive Davis, the legendary music producer, who was and is still a very close personal friend and mentor, who helped me really define what my life's purpose was. That's a longer story, but it was transformational for me.
I'll bet.
And then there was the great Wizard of Oz, the great casting director and acting teacher, Michael Shurtleff, who wrote perhaps the best book on auditioning ever written. And I think the years that I worked with him guided my work first as an actor, and then with his support and mentorship, my transition into casting and coaching. So I think especially those two, and I had some wonderful some wonderful acting teachers as well, but they really inspired in me sort of a passing of a baton. Even then, I look back, I look forward, even then, and I look ahead and I thought, you know what? If I can be that guy for the next confused actor or someone who just doesn't know what to do next, I hope I can be that person for them. So for them and for those like Clive and Michael, I am eternally grateful.
Paul, when you think about the work as a coach that you do, day in and day out, over a long period of time, what is it that you love so much about it? What draws you to it? Why do you love to do it?
I think what I love about coaching and teaching is having the opportunity to work with actors in a way that it's just not possible in the audition room. I mean, I see such talent and such potential, but they don't always deliver what they're capable of. So they leave the room and it's a bit of a missed opportunity. So seeing that little light go off in their eyes when I do work with them after a coaching session or a workshop, that's what really makes me really happy. And watching these actors grow and evolve and find more depth in their work and reach their full potential and ultimately, hopefully, book a job. That's why I love this.
What kinds of actors would you say you are most open to working with? Should actors who are brand new and have never even and barely set foot on set be reluctant to work with you? Actors who've been doing it for decades, anything in between? Do you have what would you say to all of those actors about their approach and your willingness to work with them?
I find myself working with an entire range of actors. I'm working with 10-year-old young actors to fully established actors who are testing for pilots and network series and features. I work differently with each of them, but of course I treat them all as actors and not as novices in the sense of being condescending in any way. I respect each and every one of them. They each bring their personal potential and their own personality to the work, and I develop them at different levels depending on the level they are as an actor.
What's a session going to be like working with Paul Weber? What could actors expect in working with you? Are you tough? Are you demanding? Are you in there viscerally with them? You know, tell me about a session with you and how you like to approach that relationship.
Well, you know, I think that actors who, let's just say that my coaching and teaching style is very much like my casting style. And I think that actors who know me can attest to that. Having been an actor, I remember how intimidated and uncomfortable I was occasionally walking into an audition room. So what I try to do, and I think I do best, is to create this safe, supportive, constructive, creative environment while still challenging the actor to do the very best job they can in an audition. And I also try to keep it fun, which is what I've always tried to do in the audition room too, right? Because this is a journey we're all on and it should be fun for us. And if we don't, well, I mean, what's the point, right? Unless we're passionate and love what we do.
Well said. And I do not disagree with that. I think there's a lot of actors out there that are looking at your experience and are going to want to work with you in that capacity. Talk to me for a minute about technology as an actor, as a coach, as a casting director. It's everywhere in the industry. It's all around us. And certainly virtual coaching is right at the forefront of it. And with so many actors now thinking, I want to give this a go. Have you found, after doing years and years of live one-on-one or group session acting sessions, coaching sessions, is anything lost in the technology? How do you feel about the virtual coaching experience, and what should actors think of doing that with you in that sense?
Well, in a sense, what's lost is the same thing that's lost when an actor is not in the room with you in a casting session. Same thing for a coaching session or a group session. So sure, there's going to be a little bit that's lost because of that. However, thank God we have this technology.
Yeah.
Because without it, where would we be, especially now? And the fact that we're seeing coaching sessions, we're seeing casting sessions being done virtually is really a blessing. And I have watched how meticulously and with such great integrity the CWB team has worked to develop a platform that will be a really positive gathering place for actors and coaches to work together in. And just because we're all becoming just a lot more comfortable with this, the idea of virtual casting, I think it's not only that we're becoming comfortable with it, I think we are really embracing it as like a terrific component or complement to what was, for the most part, only exclusively live in-person coaching and workshops. And I think you folks have especially done a terrific job in helping to make that possible.
Well, I appreciate that, and thanks. I think it's interesting, and you'll have to tell me in the weeks and months ahead through this experience. I think for so many actors, when they come to a typical, weekend workshop with Paul Weber, they go to a venue and they walk in and they are able to be in a time and a place and become that actor they're trying to be. And now we are in an environment where we're in your living room and we're in our homes and we're in our very private and personal space. And I'm really curious if that will allow actors a certain degree of vulnerability or a new experience to be able to do stuff, certainly with their coach, that maybe they've never had to do before. Most people, most actors even, have been actors in all sorts of incredible places. Most have rarely done it ever in their living room.
Yes. And yes, of course, when you
Right?
walk into a live event,
Yeah,
there's a certain nervousness and
sure.
anxiety that comes with that, and who's the other actors that I'll be working with, and there's a bit of that. It becomes sort of slightly competitive in a sense too. None of that is bad per se, but I know from my experience as an actor and as a casting director, my job is to create a really warm experience with a group of actors. And I find that I melt them down a little bit as I
Yeah.
begin working with them. But I can sort of do a shortcut now, to your point.
Yeah, right.
When I'm working with an actor one-on-one or perhaps a small group, we can just, it's really intimate. And it didn't feel that way maybe when all this first started. It felt like technology. But now it feels, the moment, every time I work with an actor now and new actors, they are really comfortable with this online experience.
I think so.
They are, and they are dressed comfortably, and sometimes a dog walks by, you know, or their little brother or parent or their spouse, and it, you know, we take a little bit of a break, and it just becomes like two friends talking about something that we want to work on together and collaborate on. So it doesn't necessarily feel like this crack the whip kind of coaching. It's a real interpersonal relationship that we get to right away.
I think that's so cool. And you'll have to keep me posted on the experience. I know there's a lot of actors that are excited to work with you in that capacity. Just really briefly before we wrap, Paul, I was also curious to ask you about, of all the different kinds of sessions and different things where actors can see on your profile page, they can book time with you to do a number of different things. A quote really stood out to me, and you and I have talked about this before from a while back, where Meryl Streep, you know, really touted the impact of her acting coach throughout her career, and that she continues to see an acting coach on a regular basis. And this is an actor, you know, an Academy Award nominated and winning actor, who is saying, you know, I continue to make that coaching experience part of my career, and credits a lot of that success to that experience. In your time with working with actors, do you develop a curriculum and sessions that allow actors maybe more short-term growth and development, or is your approach often a more, you know, you're always developing, you're always trying to work as an actor? Is there always something new an actor can learn in your estimation? And should actors who are thinking that way want to work with you?
Yes. Because if you look at my profile, there are a number of different formats and approaches we can take to the work. Some is really laser-like in terms of focusing on a particular audition, but others are, when we're dealing with monologues or commercials or short scenes, there are different ways of approaching that material. And also I suggest complementary reading material that I think might benefit them. And being a casting director and a coach, you become, and a former actor, you get a sense of an actor's psyche and their personality and how they like to work. And I tend to be pretty good instinctually at working with actors on their own level and getting them to a place where they feel like they are growing constantly, but always being challenged and never entirely comfortable, but becoming more and more comfortable in their skin as an artist.
Should actors approach a coaching experience, if this is a new one for them and they've never done it before, you know, when should they set realistic expectations of results? Is that something that must be difficult to measure? What do you say to actors who feel like they want to get there much quicker? Is that just not possible, or can great work happen in shorter amounts of time? How do you manage those expectations?
That has always been the greatest dilemma for me as a casting director. Casting directors tend to be result oriented.
Yeah.
We're not process oriented.
That's right. That's right.
Process is what you do outside before you come in. And as a former actor, that pains me a little bit. But the work that I do with actors is to work toward results, at least for the audition. I have to be really honest about that. I'm not an acting teacher per se, but I know from my own training and experience and background, I think I understand actors and their processes pretty well. So I'm able to tap into those tools that I've developed over the years, and perhaps they have, as an audition coach, to help actors create the most effective and best audition experience possible.
Paul Weber, thank you for being a part of the CWBLive coaching program. I'm so excited for actors to get a chance to work with you. Again, if you'd like to learn more about Paul, have a look at his profile page just down below. You can read about the different options in terms of session bookings and availability. It's all there for you. We encourage you to get in touch with Paul and have a transformative experience. Paul, as always, I say, I hope we'll have you on the show again and we can do this another time. We never have enough, but I love talking to you. So thank you so much today.
Thank you so much, Christopher. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope to see you all out there.
We'll see you again next time. Thanks very much, Paul.
Hope to see you in here.